The last time I bought a whistle, it was a very cold November evening in 1996. The streets of Belgrade were filled, not with holiday cheer, but with a strong desire for change. As a sixth grader at the time, I stood among university students. We knew the risks. Adults were being arrested, earlier protests had faced police violence and water cannons. For me, just as a child, the dangers were real. What if I ended up in police station? How would I explain this to my parents? Why I wasn't in school when I was supposed to be there? But the hope for change drew me in. Little did I know that that night would start a journey that would change everything that I thought I knew about countries and how they are governed. Growing up in the Republic of Yugoslavia during the mid 90s was hard. After the bankruptcies in 1980s in communist Yugoslavia, we got voting rights and endless wars in a country run by ex-communist leaders. Power outages weren't just annoying, they were part of daily life. I remember doing my homeworks by the candlelight. It was the reality of a government that could not or would not take care of its own people. The atmosphere was very heavy, like a fog that wouldn't lift. Government crackdowns were constant. Any sign of disagreement was met with a quick and very harsh action. Opposition journalists and politicians would be beaten and sometimes murdered by the regime. What if we brought back the monarchy? Was a topic of the time. After all, our country has been a constitutional parliamentary monarchy with deep ties to the Western world before the communists took over and turned it into a republic with Stalin's constitution. Our titular king, Crown Prince Alexander II Karadziordzevich, was in favor of constitutional monarchy, a system where the monarch's powers are limited by constitution and elected parliament. This did not make him popular with everyone. Some people misunderstood what monarchy meant. Who could blame them, after all, when they grew up in communist classrooms? They thought all monarchies were absolute, where the king or queen held all the power without checks and balances. They were attracted by the idea of a strong ruler who could fix everything, a rule similar to those of dictators that they have known. When they realized that the candidate for the king wasn't planning to be an absolute monarch, they were disappointed. This made me wonder, what exactly is absolute monarchy and how does it actually work? An absolute monarchy is a form of government where one person, usually a king or queen, has complete control over the government and its people. The monarch's word is a law. There are no checks and balances from a parliament or constitution, and the monarch doesn't have to answer to the people. Let's look back at history. Take France under King Louis XIV, for example. Ruling from 1643 to 1715, Louis XIV is perhaps the most famous absolute monarch. He centralized power by weakening the nobility and controlling the economy, religion, and culture. This is probably not what you heard, that he was making friends with the elite and exploiting the weak. You might have heard that famous declaration he made, "I am the state." With this, he meant all government powers rested in his hands. And then there is Russia under Tsar Peter the Great, who transformed Russia into major European power. Peter modernized the military, expanded the navy, and reformed the government to place himself at the center of all decision making. He controlled the church, reduced the power of the nobles, and introduced new taxes, all without needing approval from anyone. Same as Louis XIV, he reduced power of elite. In both cases, these monarchs exercised complete authority over their nations. They decided on laws, controlled the economy, dictated religious practices, and even influenced culture and the arts. So, how does this absolute monarchy work in practice? In an absolute monarchy, power is centralized. The monarch makes laws, enforces them, and then interprets them as well. There are no separate branches of government like in many modern states. The idea is that a single, strong leader can make decisions quickly and efficiently. Succession is usually hereditary, passing from parent to child. This can provide stability since everyone knows who the next leader will be. However, it also means that if the heir is not capable or just, the country could suffer. Which is why the monarchies have royal families who historically tend to take care of their own clansmen when they start destroying the country. Apart from this, there are no formal constraints on the monarch's power. Unlike constitutional monarchies, where laws and constitution limit what the monarch can do, an absolute monarch doesn't have such restrictions. Their authority is often justified by the divine right of the kings, the belief that they were chosen by God to rule. You might think absolute monarchies are the thing of the past, but they still exist today. Saudi Arabia is one example. The king holds extensive powers over the government and society. While there are advisory bodies, the king is the one that is making the final decision on all matters, including laws, foreign policy, and economical plans. The royal family's influence extends into all aspects of life. It is important to distinguish absolute monarchy from other forms of governance. In a constitutional monarchy, like we have in United Kingdom or Sweden, the monarch's powers are limited by constitution or laws passed by a parliament. The monarch often serves a ceremonial role, while elected officials run the government. The monarchy symbolizes tradition and continuity, but it doesn't control the government. Monarch steps in to help out the government when he is called to do so. In a republic, the head of state is usually elected and power is divided among different branches of government to prevent any one person from having too much control. However, as we've seen in some cases, republics can sometimes, and they often do, shift into dictatorships when leaders manipulate the system to gain excessive power. What makes any form of monarchy different from authoritarian republican dictatorships is that they do not see their people as enemies. Thinking back to that cold night in 1996, I realize now that our struggle wasn't just against a corrupt leader. It was a quest for a system that truly serves its people, a system rooted in our shared history and culture but adaptable to modern needs. Serbia missed opportunity to bring monarchy back, which is probably the reason why it is having exactly the same politicians in power as it did in the mid 90s. What do you think about monarchy and absolute monarchies? Let me know down in comments. If you found value in this video, don't forget to check out one of these others. A special thanks to my Patreon and YouTube member supporters. Your support is appreciated. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.